real life.
Declarations of conflict of interest.
None. Good.
Approval of agenda.
Good. Second, doesn't matter.
Okay. Any business arising from the minutes?
I just have a question, Chair.
Sure.
The last, when we had the presentation, gentlemen were here, we had said that we were going to forward it to the Finance Committee for their involvement in any follow-up at a later date. I guess I just don't want to forget because we've switched committees and stuff to make sure that happened.
So the follow-up from that, we did meet the consultants, and Hamad and I met with, were you there at that one? You weren't there at that one. We had a conversation with FCM regarding like funding streams and whether it's eligible. So we're still kind of working through that before we bring it to finance, just so that we can give them the full picture. But I'll make a note here on my file and make sure we follow up with that.
Or at least follow up with them, because we
Yes.
did say that we would follow up with them.
That's the Enterprises
That was Chris Boswell.
Yeah.
Green Business Park out in Marshfield.
Thank you. That was all.
Any other business arising from the minutes? Okay, we'll move on to reports. Excuse me. A, Municipal Natural Assets Inventory, ENS 2036. Jessica,
Thank you.
thank you.
So the main purpose of the report is to ask for your support in submitting an expression of interest to the Municipal Natural Asset Initiative. So this is a program for municipalities to do an inventory of our natural assets. So that's our forests and our wetlands and our streams and our green spaces. So you submit the expression of interest, and if we're successful, they work with us on that assessment and inventory. And so as part of that, it would also prepare us for future FCM funding and programs. And they would supply us with an inventory and risk assessment to our natural assets, and then create a roadmap for future management of our natural assets. And if we were successful, we would have to allocate $2,500 in our budget for next year to go towards that project. So pretty minimal investment for a pretty in-depth project. And basically, right now, it's just asking for support for an expression of interest. And we would submit it, and we may or may not be successful in getting approved for the
So
program.
what's the potential in terms of ceiling when it comes to finances? What can you give me a ballpark figure?
Of what, sorry?
Can you give me a ballpark figure of how much money that potentially could be coming back to the city with this request being approved?
I'm not sure the dollar value of what they would bring to the table, but basically they lead the whole project for the year, and we contribute $2,500. So they're doing community engagement with us and the risk assessment and the inventory on their time.
And this would be the FCM?
It's not FCM, it's a separate organization that are called the Municipal Natural Asset Initiative.
Who does that consist of?
It's run by a board of people. I'm familiar with the executive director, I believe it is, and they're from different places across Canada, and they all bring different pieces to it. So some people are from conservation authorities, and some from the parks background, and it's a pretty diverse board.
Okay, so is that board here locally?
No,
It's across Canada?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it an NGO?
Yeah, I believe it's like an NGO, yeah. It's not FCM. It's a separate, like, sole organization.
Okay.
But they prepare you for FCM, natural asset funding and programs.
Yeah. Any questions from the committee?
Oh, a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Moved? Thank you. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jessica. Food Council, Video Series Strategic Planning, ENS 2037. Katrina.
Thank you. So the intent of of this report is to get your approval or seek your approval on a couple of projects that the Food Council is putting forward. This would be expensed out of the budget that was approved as part of the 2021 budget. So the Food Council has been, as we've talked about, running for just over 2 years now, and were originally a larger council. They were sitting at 13, 14 members for a time and have now shrunk down to 8. They spent the first 2 years setting a lot of the foundation for the council itself, so creating the Charlottetown Food Charter, kind of a brand identity, and collecting some data relating to the food system in Charlottetown. But now with the reduction in size of the council, and in that sort of transition from setting that initial groundwork to moving more towards action-oriented goals and actually creating these larger scale shifts in the Charlottetown food system, they feel as though they would benefit from strategic planning. So, in using that to develop a concrete work plan and setting some defined goals. So that's the first component that they are requesting. And then alongside that, the strategic planning will take a certain amount of time and will be kind of a larger scale plan, but they would also like to be working towards providing some resources to the community in the meantime while they work on that strategic plan. So to that end, they have proposed creating a video series in which they would make short 1 to 2 minute videos focusing on priority areas that they've identified as experts in the food related fields. And they would put out one of those a month starting in January for the year. And then another tie would be, so something they've been working on is the food asset map for Charlottetown, identifying all of our assets, so they've come a long way on that. And these videos would also be an opportunity to highlight some of those assets. So the ask is $5,500 for all of that. You can see the breakdown of that at the end of the report.
So the $5,500 would pay for the cost of creating the videos.
The videos and the strategic planning coordinator.
Strategic planning coordinator?
Yeah, so they would be hiring somebody to lead the strategic planning.
The food council would be mandated to, or be responsible for recruiting that position?
Yeah, correct. They would go for quotes and yeah.
Okay. Would they still be following the same procedures and process when it comes to hiring here at City Hall? Or would they be following that same process?
Yeah, they would be working with me to make sure that we followed the correct procedures.
Okay, thank you, Katrina. Is there any questions? Craig?
Chair, thank you. So when it comes to the creation of videos, Katrina, does this have to be vetted through our community comms department
Yeah.
as well for approval?
Yeah, it does.
Prior to?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So they would create the videos, they would give enough time there that Jen and Alicia would approve and make sure that any back and forth time was necessary to sort of tweak the messaging or the quality of the video before being put out, and then our communications team would be the ones that actually post it.
And does sorry, not a follow-up, just to answer to this question. So when someone's hired for this coordinator for the strategic plan, is that vetted through HR? Does that have to go through HR, or is that something that the environment would do?
It's not a full recruitment, it's more like a contract. So we would do it similar to a request for quotes
Okay.
versus going through a
Yeah.
recruitment. It's a short term, like it would likely be maybe 3 meetings where they would come and meet with the food council and have the discussions versus somebody that would be on staff. It's
Yeah.
not
Okay,
a.
yeah, okay, no, thank you.
Julie?
And I'm just clarifying that it is already in our budget anyway, correct?
It is. So
Correct.
at this time, we approved 10,000 budget for them towards different food-related initiatives, so that would come from that existing approved budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Katrina. C, climate adaptation funding. Can somebody please tell me what E and S means?
Environment sustainability.
Okay, great,
Come on,
thank
Jared.
you. Well, gotta learn that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay,
He's running technology.
yeah. Ramona,
So just want to note that there's a typo on this report under the subject. It has the food council projects. I think I did a save as on Katrina's report to change that item. So this is just an update on a couple of funding applications. So One we've already been approved for, and that is through the Climate Sense Internship Program. So there's 12 placements across PEI, they're open right now. And two of those positions will be working with the city of Charlottetown. Both are 6-month contracts, so one will be January to June and one will be June to the end of December. This was a 100% funded program, so UPEI does all the recruitment for that project. We help with the job description, but they do the recruitment process. They post the positions, and there's currently 12 of these positions now posted on the UPEI website. Closing dates November 5th. So if you know young people interested in food and working on climate change adaptation, there's everything from working with the Adelwood First Nation to Watershed Alliance to Creative PEI, as well as a variety of postings with municipalities. So the funding again will cover 100% of wages and benefits. They don't actually even get paid as an employee. They get paid by UPEI directly, but they will be working out of City Hall offices, and they will start in January. It'll go for next year.
So is that open to students?
They need to be new graduates, so it depends on the
Okay.
position. We have one position that's focused on planning and policy. So we would want somebody with a background in policy development or urban planning, but typically they would be undergrad students, so it's not like it would probably be somebody within their first couple of years outside of university. And the other position is infrastructure resilience, so we're looking for somebody with an engineering background.
Engineering. But they have to be a graduate.
They have to be a graduate.
Okay.
Yeah, but those are just the positions we're recruiting for. Some of them require background in the art sector, some require, there's a lot of different backgrounds. So if you know people who are interested, I encourage to look at all the postings, because there's a variety.
Okay. And again, Ramona, just to reiterate, they have to be a graduate. They couldn't be a third-year engineering student.
I want to, I guess I'd want to double check 100%,
Okay.
but my understanding is that they all need to be graduates.
Okay.
It's probably a full-time job during the day. I'm
It is a
assuming,
full-time
So they
job.
probably couldn't be in school
Yeah, that's
and
true.
working full-time.
It's not a
probably.
summer position.
Right.
Okay.
It's a great opportunity though.
Yeah.
It's great.
It is great. And they have a really interesting thing with UPEI where they'll be getting these 12 interns to also collaborate together. So they'll be learning from each other, and they'll be doing training throughout the year with them too.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I just ask, Ramona, when you and I met with Tony Redden and I forget the other person's name last week,
Yes.
did we bring this up to them? I don't think, is this new information?
I think I said it briefly, but it is kind of new information. At that point, it wasn't yet public that we've been given the
So
funding.
this is a very positive move in the right direction.
Definitely.
And the construction of the new climate change facilities started down there in St. Peter's. Do we plan to be, is it the intention of the city of Charlottetown and other municipalities to work closely with this institute? Or is
I
that
think-
something we start now, or we just wait until it's built and open for business?
I think the contact we have with UPEI, Ross Dwyer, who's the coordinator on this project, I can see this, he's already brought together all the host organizations, we've had some conversations there, so I could see this leading to some future partnerships, but we can certainly reach out to the Climate Change School and say that we'd like to partner with them if they have opportunities, and we have lots of ideas too.
Perfect.
We can do that as follow-up.
Thank you.
And then the second is the Climate Action Awareness Fund. So this one just closed last week. We were not eligible as a lead applicant, so municipalities were not eligible. It had to be an NGO. So, but municipalities were encouraged to partner. So we partnered with, it's a large sort of partnership. So the PEI Watershed Alliance, Stratford Creative PEI, and then there's also Lennox Island, and a couple of others that are part of this, the Hillsborough River Association also. So this project is valued at approximately $500,000. It'll start in January of 2021 if successful and go till March 31st of the following year. And it has a lot of project components, but the ones that are more related to Stratford and Charlottetown would be work in the Hillsborough River, as well as setting up some demonstration sites on public and private property to show how we manage overland flooding and coastal erosion. And then also working on some public engagement initiatives also with Creative PEI. So a speaker series, some public art, and a video series as well. So most of the funding is coming from the actual fund. We have our piece is kind of a rather small amount, but we've talked about potentially $30,000 towards the project, and as well as using our in-kind resources towards that. So we'll have those climate sense interns that can help with that work. We have our new water coordinator that can help with that work. And if we want to increase the size of our demonstration projects, we will put in additional funds. But none of that cash contribution would be in this year's budget. It would all be presented to council for our operating budget for next year, and it would be contingent on funding approval and approval of council.
Thank you. Floor is open.
Point of clarification, Mr. Chair. So the water coordinator, is that the watershed coordinator you're talking about, or is it water in general?
So we have a water coordinator. They just started last week. Alistair Ozon. So we got funding from Eco Canada for that position.
Right.
So they're working, I'm not sure if you've seen the job description, but they work on, it's a one-year contract, so they're working on watershed coordination, so
Yes.
working with the watershed groups.
Oh,
But
good.
they'll also be doing some of the work that utility projects officer used to do, which is supporting the role I was in originally with the city. We're doing water conservation and well field protection, so it'll be working with the utility as well as with sustainability. And Alistair Ozon, he will be here, I'm sure, many times, but we'll wait till he has a chance to settle in before we get him.
Perfect. That's good news. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from the committee?
I'll put a motion to approve.
Terry?
Hello?
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, no, all good.
Second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Ramon. Okay. Honeywell 90% review, ENS 2039. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On October 22nd, Honeywell presented their 90% update on the energy performance contract. Technical meetings took place, followed by the steering committee. There were some good results they showed. A few numbers have been put down on your council document. There's approximately 57 cars per year taken off road by Bell Line Centers upgrades. With Eastlink, around 83 cars per year would be taken off, and for the city-owned facilities, excluding the wastewater treatment plant, would remove around 93 cars. The approximate cost at this stage has been decreased to 10.
What do you mean to take the cars off the road?
So greenhouse gas reduction, sorry.
Okay, so you're just comparing the greenhouse gas.
Exactly.
Equivalent to those cars,
Yes.
okay.
I could give you the numbers and tons as well.
No, I just thought.
That's a good analogy. I
Sure.
like the cars.
Make sure.
Sorry. The cost of the project has been brought down to around $10 million. Incentives lie around 916, and the payback period is around 20 years. Cost savings would be around $350,000 per year. As of now, we have been approved by FCM's Green Municipal Fund for $175,000. And then for next steps, Honeywell has recommended dividing the implementation stage into two parts. The first part would go for the low-hanging fruit, which would be easier for the city to implement, and then apply for the funding until we hear back. And once we hear back, we move forward with the second part of the project, which would be the remaining of it. So the first part would be approximately around $3 million, and then the remaining 7 could be implemented depending on if we get funding or not. Right now, The city staff is working on further refining the scope and the contract for this project, and then once something is developed further, it would come to council with final recommendations.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor?
It's quite a big reduction in our greenhouse emission though, isn't it? When you look at 12.5%, it's a good, isn't it? Is that good? I don't think that's good. I'm asking.
I think it's good.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty, as we're working towards a target goal though, right? What is our target goal? Or,
Yeah, so we have, by 2030, remind me.
So here's the CEP. Let me open it and read it out for you folks.
What does the
is that
document
goal?
say?
So 2050
Net
is
zero
net
emissions?
zero, but for our 2030, it's 40% reduction.
In
for
greenhouse gases.
2030.
Greenhouse
So,
gas, yes.
And I don't know if everyone heard the announcement by the provincial government, but they're looking at net zero by 2030, which is only 9 years from now.
Net zero like full.
Full.
Yeah, there's-
That's pretty
they-
ambitious.
Yeah,
That is
Who made that, the environment minister or the premier?
I think, was
Both.
it Stephen Myers?
I think if you look at all the money that's being available for green initiatives, I think it's achievable.
Yeah.
I really do.
So
I mean, we should be seriously looking at a lot more of that for our buildings. We don't have hardly any, I don't think we have any electric vehicles, do we?
No.
Like, we should be having electric vehicles, there should be some public works electric trucks. Like, we're not even talking about that.
I agree. And we get those plug-in things here.
There's one down, there's gonna be 18 of them in the city.
I know.
Mr. Chair, could I just ask Ahmed? Ahmed made the same suggestion on Saturday. The city should be looking at some of their vehicles for their supervisors that do most of their driving within the city. Because with the electric car that we had, or the SUV, every time you stop, it was recharging. So it's something we should be looking at, whether we buy or lease.
So
But,
you could probably give an update on that too, Laurent, just on.
But just before you do, Ahmed, just in your second part, city facilities, the Honeywell has recommended the city divides, uses solar energy. Where is that represented?
That's the one.
Second part. Yeah, is there an effort to increase our solar energy capture? Is that that's being proposed here?
So after our 60% meeting, we came back to Honeywell to look into district heat reduction and increase in solar panels. And they did give, in this new 90% update, they did include a lot of those changes.
Yeah, so the
So
second
it's
part.
West
includes-
Royalty Community Center, Hillsborough Community Center,
East Link.
East Link Center, where's the fourth?
I think it's police station, but
And some solar initiatives. Councillor Tweel and I and a couple of, I think, 2 MLAs for Charlottetown 10 and 11, was it, Mr. Councillor? Or 10 and 12, District 10 and 12. We met with Angus Orford from MECL, and when they were talking about energy for the Prince Edward Island, 13% comes from wind. 23% comes from wind, 13% from nuclear, and then the remainder from other sources. Are we going to look at wind as a possibility of generation, or is it just solar?
We've looked a couple times at wind, but within the city, one of the things that we proposed is the next time we do a wind farm expansion is that the Charlottetown that buy into the next project. So rather than put windmills, like a random windmill in Charlottetown, a wind turbine, we would invest in that. Perhaps we purchase 2 of the wind turbines and the associated energy then it gets allocated towards our needs. That's kind of the approach that we've recommended before, but at this point that kind of conversation is fairly quiet on the solar.
And the reason I bring it up for a moment, because Fortis is the parent company to Maritime Electric. They're based in St. John's, but Fortis has they're the major electrical supplier in Turks and Caicos, and it's all solar. And he said the reason for that, because it's so close to the equator, that they have more sun. Other is Tucson, Arizona, but he said when you come up to the northern part, an island, it's better to have wind than solar, because we have so much wind here. Anyways, it's something to keep in mind.
So you're proposing a wind farm?
No, she said if there's another proposal for a wind farm, that we should buy into it as a city corporation.
And put the windmills where?
Wherever they do put them up, because when they make this kind of announcement, they look at not just closer to municipalities, it's areas that are removed from subdivisions, municipalities. They want to keep them out in open fields because of...
No, but in the city of Charlottetown, where would you put a wind farm? That's what I'm asking.
No,
You
you
drop.
couldn't do it. We're not, she's not, what Ramona's response was that if there's another development for a wind farm on the island, that we buy into it, which would be a good deal for us. No, I would never suggest a wind farm in Charlottetown, because we don't have the land or the area to do it.
Well, I'd be interested to see how the Summerside solar farm turns out.
You know, what we've seen, there is some good viability even in northern areas, like Germany has done a lot on solar, and they are kind of like similar geographically to us, so, everything kind of that I read as diversification is your best bet, so, but I definitely wouldn't want us to, I wouldn't recommend that we put a wind turbine, a standalone wind turbine in the city, like the cost of operating,
has
versus
to be-
tagging it onto an existing
It
project.
has to be within a mass of them. It's not one here, one there. No. I
And
understand.
we did even look at, tide turbines in the Hillsborough River. We did a project a few years ago with the Sustainable Design, Engineering Design School, so they looked at a number of different things, including wind along the Hillsborough River and water turbines in the Hillsborough River, neither of which at that point were really viable options for us.
Ramona, do you know the program that Halifax has a subsidy program to allow people to put solar panels, to apply and put solar panels on their properties?
Yes.
Do you know how that works?
Yeah, Solar City, so that I think when it came into place in 2014,
Yeah.
but they had a lot of good success with that. We're actually, so remember we've been talking about the PACE program, so that's the financing program. That was what they set up in order to enable the Solar City. So the person we're working with right now on developing the PACE program is actually the original developer of the Solar City project in Halifax. So right now we're trying to get the financing mechanism in place, because what they relied on in Halifax is that people didn't have to make that upfront investment.
Right.
They were allowed to make those payments over the life of the system. And then the community, the municipality actually coordinated all the suppliers and installers so that you had one point of contact that was going and doing them all, versus the onus being on the homeowner to call and find somebody and have them install it.
Because I think that would be a good initiative to start now, because the province also has their subsidy program. And I think it's up to 40%
Yeah.
they'll pay.
We're actually having some conversations right now on next steps with the PACE program, so we could add that to the agenda to see, is this a good time to announce sort of like solar as like a major component of that program?
The province has already got a program in place, do you not?
No, for this,
They do,
for this
they
would
have on
complement
the
that.
rebate side, yeah. And they do have some financing available, but it's for smaller projects where this would allow.
And can you get from multiple levels of government funding for,
You get it through
So-
Efficiency PEI, so Efficiency PEI is funded by the Low Carbon Economy Fund, which is federal funding.
But if we offered to fund, that would be on top of that. That would make it more attractive, that's all. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Okay, thank you. Item E, lead street lighting update from Public Works. Ramona?
So this came up a few meetings ago, and my apologies, I'm going to bring you an update sooner. This is a report that was prepared for the Public Works Committee. It's an update from Riley on the status of LED, but I did want to ensure that this committee had access to the information. So Public Works is the lead on the transition from the old lights to LED lights. Of the 3,000 street lights, 1,200 are LED and 1,900 are the existing lights. So their intent is to complete the street lighting by 2027. And then it does show some of the reduction in costs as a result of these. So saving about 53% on the monthly bill for the LED.
53% did you say?
Yeah, is that what it said? The 260 lights a month, yes. So they're seeing 53.7% reduction in the monthly bill as a result of those lights that have been transitioned over.
So our monthly bill, our yearly bill is 1.1 million, Peter, for
1.1
electricity.
million. So you're saying we're gonna reduce that in half? When we're all the LED?
What it says here is that the city will realize approximately 300,000 in savings per year once they're all completed, so 30%.
It keeps going down. It used to be 75%, now it's 50, now it's only 300,000.
Yeah.
When our bill has been 1.1 to 1.2 million.
That's what a utility can do, especially when you're sole owner.
No, but this is why when you hear 2027 and the problems is going with being net free by 2030, it seems to be a long time to be able to get these streetlights replaced. A long time. And I know why it's taking so long. And all you can do is figure it out with the corporation that wants to make money. We're the biggest client. We're the slowest to get them transferred over. So unless somebody starts barking from this department, it's going to be 2037 before they get them done.
Well, what we'll do, your point's well taken. What we'll do is we'll take that under advisement. We'll take the next few days. We'll think about it, bring a plan of action, formulate a plan of action, and bring it back to the committee. And see if we can move the sticks down the field.
So, Mr. Chair, do we replace the infrastructure, or is that MECL? Oh, so we have to wait for the electrical company then?
There has been some talk about going to short into a 5-year time frame, and so we had those kind of discussions to make it more expeditious. And so we haven't had a clear outcome on it, but we are asking you to say to get it done sooner.
One thing I must be missing something in the math here. From the initial cluster of 266 lights, the monthly bill is reduced from 6,900 to 3,200, a savings of 3,700 or 53.7%. It is estimated that during the period of 6 to 7 years to complete the LED changeover, the city's savings, reduced electricity, will be 945,000, which will realize approximately 300,000 savings. So why wouldn't it still be at 50% or 53% savings? Why did it drop down to 25%?
Yeah, I agree. It kind of seems like there's something wonky going
Yeah.
on there. I can
Just a
look into
mistake.
that a little bit more, and come on, and I can get back to you at the next
Yeah,
one.
okay, yeah.
Did this information come from Scott Adams?
This
Mona?
was prepared by Riley for Scott, yes. And so this was presented at the Public Works Committee last month, because I know it was discussed at council last month also. But this is just the same report that they had.
Okay.
Ronnie, what's Ronnie's last name?
Riley, what is it? Tweel.
Another one.
I think what it's saying is that there's 945,000 until that they've saved to get it all changed over. Then every year moving thereafter, it's 300,000 when I read that.
Yeah.
It looks like that's what they mean, like it took all this time, but in that time frame, it was 945,000 saved. And then every year, once they're changed, once the whole
But
city's
the end
changed,
result will be at $300,000.
it will always be about $300,000 a year.
But it should be a lot more than that.
Well, no, I think when I read that, go ahead, Howard.
Okay. So
Sorry.
any other questions?
I think he wants to speak, Chair.
I could address that if that's fine. I don't know the exact number why it reduced to 25, but as you could see, he mentions that these are halogen bulbs and LAN, HPS, and HAL. These are 3 different types of bulbs. All of these consume electricity differently. So the first round, which we probably did, would have been for the bulbs which consume the most electricity. So the low-hanging fruit is the first stuff we get, right? So that's why you see the 53%, and then eventually. We could look into this further and get back to you. But that
Yeah, but
is
I think at the end of the day, Haman, it was always advertised when you switched over, it was about 75% savings. And I know there's different strengths and different bulbs, and now we're down to 50%. But when you switch over from an LED light, incandescent, there's usually even more of a savings. So you're going through different types of lights, but at the end of the day, if we're paying $1.1 million in electricity now, for the last few years, which we have been, and then you switch over. And I know as you switch over, that should start to come down slowly, and it hasn't been, whether electricity rates are going up or what, but it has been still sticking around at 1.2 million. So at the end of the day, when they're all switched over, for the city to only see 300,000 a year, when it should have been 750 to 800,000, there's something missing.
When was the 75% left? I've never
When they
heard
first
75.
advertised, when
What?
they first come out.
When they come out.
advertised.
Yeah. But just the infrastructure, the light bulb, the post and all, everything that goes with that infrastructure is MECL's. It's not ours. We don't pay for the light or anything.
Except
Right?
for the heritage lanterns are all ours.
Right,
And
but-
the trail lightings are all ours.
Right, but all the street lighting belongs to MECL.
Yeah.
So they pay for the bulbs, they pay for everything, right?
Not all of them.
No?
No, I think it's wooden's there and
And then
metal
steel's
is
ours.
ours, yes,
Okay.
The steel ones are ours?
if I'm not mistaken.
There's not too many steel ones left.
Public University have it. I'll call by the university.
Yeah, that's about it. You go along the hospital, that's not ours, that belongs to the province, all those metal posts.
Well, that's all, there's a highway.
Yeah, Riverside Drive.
Okay. So, we'll continue with gathering more information. Try to even be a little more specific in our discussions with Public Works. One thing we want to keep in mind too, we replaced the lights down at City Diamond with LED lights. City Diamond and the Diamond, that was installation of new LED lights down at Cardigan, I believe. The only 2 ball diamonds here in the province that has LED lights. So that's something we want to consider as well, is the cost savings there. So we're looking for a big return on that investment.
Was there an estimate given on that estimate before they did it?
You know what, Terry, there probably was, but I don't know the figure. But that shouldn't be too hard to get. But I can tell you, those lights they're fantastic.
No, they're turning out.
Oh my God, it's just probably one of the best investments we ever did.
I know the new outdoor rink there in Hillsborough Park, they have a lot of nights, and they're nice and bright, but they're
Yeah.
direct lighting.
That's right, that's right. And that's what we want to do is a lot of our facilities. Direct lighting, same thing with lighting on the trail. Same thing. Okay. Thank you, Ramona. Now, I believe we have one more item. Okay. Who's taking the lead in this one? Okay.
Okay, so this is the last minute agenda edition. We did receive a letter from TIE earlier, I guess it was like last week, saying that they would support our transit projects that we have currently in draft form, which would be the full electrification program, purchase of 12 buses, all the terminal upgrades, all the buildings, all the chargers. We had originally estimated that project at $2.6 million. And in return for them prioritizing the funding for this project, They would ask that we would release the remaining funds in the public transit stream so that it could be used for the COVID-19 resilience infrastructure stream of funding. So the Capital Area Transit Coordinating Committee met yesterday with the 3 CAOs and the transit providers. We went through our project budget, which really was just a draft budget that we had provided them with, and we refined that a little bit further. So we have increased that budget to 23.8 million, which would still allow 11.6 million to be released into the COVID-19 resilience infrastructure stream. We're also hoping to use this opportunity to discuss the provincial transit operating subsidy. So they've given us $180,000 each year since 2012. We've repeatedly asked for CPI to be added to that. We've asked for them to reconsider, provide more funds. I don't know if you remember when we had our conversation about expansion to the transit service, we talked about accessing additional operating funds from the province in order to support expansion, growth of the system, to allow us to move forward. So we're going to keep those two items separate. I know one's capital, one's operating, but we do kind of want to use it a little bit as a negotiation tactic and saying we're happy to release the remainder of these funds. We feel like we have enough to do everything we need to do, but would you also consider reopening the conversation on the provincial operating subsidy? So today, all 3 municipalities are going back to their councils. I'm here to talk to you just about this and looking for your support with this direction that's been put forward by the CATCC, and to work on, to release some of those public transit stream funds back into COVID recovery, as well as to use this as an opportunity to increase the provincial operating subsidy.
Well done there. Well done.
Floor is open.
I'd like to ask a question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
2012 was 180. What was it prior to 180? What was 212? Do you know?
Nothing before that.
It was 0. And for the breakdown of the electrification of our buses, it's 9.5 from the feds, 7.9 from the provincial, 6.4 from the municipal,
Yes.
and of that 6.4, our portion will be 4.8?
Yep, over 7 fiscal years.
Okay. And do you think this is pretty good to go with the province? And
From the wording in the letter, it sounds very much like we will prioritize and to help secure this funding for you as long as you help us out by releasing.
great news. Thank you very
This is the
much.
discussion that we had, right?
Yeah, this is it.
And this is what they were asking for.
That's right.
Although I thought he said 13, because
Yeah.
11, 13.
It was 11 to 13. Yeah.
So where these projects in the cities were prioritized, they're going to be all looked after. So.
We're not losing anything.
We're not, no,
You
it's a
might
big
No, we
gain-
didn't have what we asked for.
You might gain some provincial consistent funding moving forward, right? Which is what we would hope.
If I could, Mr. Chair, we also had conversations with the Infrastructure Bank of Canada, who has about 1.5 billion in this year's funds for electrifying transit. And we're trying to tap in some of their programs for the increased cost differential from diesel to electric, and also to pay for the base infrastructure to sustain these for the future. So there may be other funds forthcoming directly or indirectly through the Infrastructure Bank as well.
The infrastructure bank is geared to triple Bs, right? Private-public partnerships.
Which is done through the construction, your worship, and then they're tying into their program. And it's $5 billion over 5 years, I believe, and this is the first time of 1.5 billion.
Sounds great.
No, I think that we've been through a lot of years with not much funding around, and there seems to be a lot of funding in these last few years, and the next few years moving ahead, and we should be tapping into all of them. Especially that Green Initiative Fund. There's a lot of money in that.
Need those electric buses for Tony.
We do.
So if we could have a motion, Mr. Chairman, to forward this on to council for the recommendation.
Moved by Councilor Rivera, seconded by Julie McCabe. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Great job, guys.
Great job, great.
I love your reports, I have to say. It's my favorite committee. Mr. VAL, we should remind
You said that
everybody,
water and
if they do
sewer,
these
too.
kind of reports, they're
You
excellent.
said that at water and sewer.
No,
Favorite.
no, I did not. I did not. These are wonderful, very informative.
Okay, is there anything under new business?
We just have the one in-camera item,
Oh, okay.
unless there's business to discuss, sorry.
Business rising? No? Okay. So, what's it, section
119.
119.
119, you think I'd have that memorized by now?
1Z.
I'll move that.
Okay. Move to be
What
moved
section, E or D or F?
D, F, up, you know. They'll interpret it whatever way they want. You know how it works, Terry. Huh?
One's-
Just